while I'm trying to get on. I'm like, oh snap. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I feel like the week is already long. That's what I feel like.
It's Tuesday though. We still got some work to do.
Yeah, I got a long day tomorrow, so I'm just prepping and preparing.
That's all you can do.
But look, we're gonna go ahead and get this started because I don't want to waste no time. And I want to go ahead and make sure we follow schedule. So we're
Sure.
gonna say, "What's up, basketball fam?" It's Coach Shays here with Coach Sarah Taylor, and I'm correct myself because we've been advertising assistant coach, but Coach Taylor is now been promoted to the associate head coach. And we want to give a congrats to you, Coach, on all your success. Coach, how does it feel going from athlete to now associate head coach? How does that feel? What has that journey been
Uh,
like?
it's been fun. I think there's a lot of things that you can grab from your athletic days and having success as an athlete that can go hand in hand with coaching. So it's been a fun ride. I love pouring into these kids. That relationship piece is what's most fun for me. So I've been enjoying the ride.
Oh, that's dope. That's dope, man. I'm like, when you text me, I was like, he's like, oh, just by the way, I was like, oh, I'm gonna promote it. Oh, we about to go
Oh
live.
yeah.
Congratulations is due, man. I mean, the last couple of years of just, being at you guys' camp and just, talking to you. I mean, I would say I'm proud of you and the work you've
Aw.
done, because you do a lot of great things, for the community. And you always take care of us when we are at your tournament. So,
Yes, and put some respect on your name. I think I saw a little coach of the year thing up there.
yeah,
Let's go, coach.
I
Working with what
appreciate
you got. Okay.
it. Yes, I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Listen, I gotta do what I gotta do. Whatever,
Absolutely.
play the cards that's dealt with you. I'm blessed, to be able to do these things and to watch everything grow, and be able to build relationships with you guys.
Absolutely.
That's a big thing. So, I just want to just appreciate the things that you guys do, because I don't think sometimes, people really understand the importance of, being a coach, period. Because, it's so much that goes behind that, so much that's into that, so, but I think the one thing that we forget is that we also, as coaches, have a fun side to us. So, coach, give us
Yeah.
one fun fact about you, that nobody knows.
Oh my goodness. A fun fact about me. Oh my goodness. I don't know. I used to be a cheerleader. I don't know. That might not be like you can tell by my energy. I was like out there. I made fourth place at nationals for cheerleading growing up. Okay. So
What?
we was out there, and I'm not talking about the rinky dink. No offense to a cheerleader if they're on the live, but we were out there competing, like going to Orlando, Miami, different places. So cheerleading is serious. Yeah. So fourth place at nationals.
That's
Growing.
crazy.
What about
Now,
you? What's a fun fact for you?
oh, I am a poet. Nobody
Okay.
knows. Nobody knows. I don't really broadcast it much. I used to kind of do some spoken word. I was featured in a couple of
Aw,
shows.
let's go.
Um, I did a couple of engagements. So I definitely, I've been. That's just kind of my safe place. Like when my
Yeah.
creative side comes out, it's just easy. I don't know.
Andy with the pen. Are we gonna get a Drake soundtrack? What we doing?
Oh man. Yeah, and I love the keyboard. I love the
Let's
keyboard.
go. You need
So
to
I
go
try to,
ahead.
yeah, I try to work some stuff in there. I mean, like I'm a little rusty, but when I have a little spare time and I need to clear my mind, I'll go do something like that. So, but I haven't done any poetry in about a year.
Oh,
I
you
took
gotta get
a
back to it. You gotta get back to your roots.
Yeah, yeah, I'm gonna try to tap into some. I saw a couple shows that was going on in Orlando, so I'm gonna probably go down and see what they're about, and might do a couple open mics just to get away for a little bit. But you
That'll be
know,
fun.
just trying to have a little hobby.
The fun outside of coaching, because we are fun.
Yes, we are. We are not just coaches, guys. We do have an outside life.
We do.
Um, but coach, a lot of times what we do with Provision Sports is, just try to give a platform that kids can come back and watch. That when they need advice on just recruiting, questions they're scared to ask, things that they don't think about. We wanted to provide this podcast to give that feedback for
Yeah.
parents, as well too. So it's just to be what we needed when we were younger, because
Yeah.
everybody didn't have that opportunity to have a mentor or have
Mhm.
somebody to show them the
Absolutely.
ropes. So Provision Sports, mission is to provide that platform for them.
Okay.
Um, So today's topic is, we're focusing on what athletes miss, that coaches see.
Mm.
And what I want to open up is, Coach, can you tell us a little bit about just Embry Riddle in a whole, about you guys' school, your program, and the things that you guys have accomplished in the years that you've been there.
Absolutely. So, Embry Riddle, our full title is Embry Riddle Aeronautical University. So, that can be a little bit intimidating sometimes when I'm recruiting, but aeronautical is just that we're really known for developing pilots. But since I've been here, I think this is going on year 8 for me. Since I've been here, we've had our first pilot graduate. So our school is open to, we have communications majors, we have business majors, we have psychology majors, we have a pre-med major, engineering and pilot and like learning how to fly and all that. That's, what our school is known for, but we have everything else. So I like to say that piece because when people hear Embry Riddle Aeronautical, what's that? No, we got everything. So, and what's neat is that there's a lot of people who graduate from our university and they want nothing to do with planes. Like they don't care about planes. But obviously once you get here and you graduate, like you kind of find a love for it, and they work in the aviation business. So we have some people that work for American or Delta or Lockheed Martin, and
Oh, wow.
sometimes they get free flights working on the business side of these airline industries. So that's a nice thing right there. But yeah, so since I've been here, I think I started around 2019. And so 2019 I started, and we had our first year. Actually, the first year of the entire program is 2014. Embry Riddle's women's basketball has only been around for about 12 years. So in 2019, we're still kind of building that foundation. Still, our alumni database isn't that long. So we're still building, still looking for pieces that fit what we need. And guess what? 2020, we go home for spring break. We don't come back because of COVID.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then in 2020 to 21, that season, we did not get to play basketball. Our school was very strict with the guidelines. So we had to stay 6 feet apart in practice. And Sadie's, tell me, how do you get better at ball screen reads, defensive help side, all of those things when you have to stay 6 feet apart?
Right. That is so
So that
hard.
was like year 2 for me at Embry Riddle.
Ooh.
And then year 3, we're building, we're getting our recruits, but this is, it's been a year and a half now since any of our returners have actually played basketball, played a game. So from those first 3 years, we were just kind of building and stacking pieces and developing different areas. And then we really kind of took off. And, I think this is our 3rd year in a row making the NCAA tournament. Last year, we are conference champs. We won the Sunshine State Conference. That was such a great feeling for our girls, like just to have them enjoy that. So, every year since, we've made it, that's the standard. We want to be a contender in the Sunshine State Conference for the conference title, and we want to make it to the NCAA tournament. And I'm a little bit, as an athlete, I think you shared that we might talk about my experience, but I made it to a Final Four as a player. And, I want nothing more than for our players to get that feeling, because there is no feeling other than like I was actually competing for a national tournament, like a national title, semifinal game. I still remember how we lost and all that. So we're not going to get into that. But yeah, so that's just a little bit about Embry Riddle in a nutshell. We've had a lot of success. Our head coach, Lisa Wilson, does a phenomenal job of building, us up on the court, also the relational piece outside of the court. So,
Coach, that's big. You
yeah,
said something big, like setting the standard.
yeah,
I think a lot of times, like, we don't know how far we can go until, you get there, and
mm-hmm.
you're taking the step by step, at one day at a time, just to be able to do that. And what we like to say is one game at a time, one quarter at a
Yeah,
time, conquer that first, so that we can now deal with tomorrow,
yep.
and I think that's a big part of it. I remember when Drea called me the next day and she had no voice after you guys won. And I was like, oh man, I'm so happy for y'all. Like
We
she was
love
so,
Drea.
that's my girl. She was so excited. She was so excited. And I was
It
like,
was, yeah,
girl. And I was just keeping tabs and I was checking in and she was sending me
yeah.
the links and I was excited, being able to follow that. That's
Mm,
an excited feeling to have, just being a part of a
absolutely.
championship team. A lot of
Yeah.
kids don't understand what that means, you
Yeah,
know.
I will say it's interesting because we did get rings. That was, we call it ring season. We got rings, and inside of our rings, we have our motto that was for the year. It takes what it takes. And a lot of times these recruits in high school or whatever, they have these dreams of being a collegiate player, but they don't know what it takes. It takes what it takes. That means the extra. That means like maybe all your friends are going somewhere on a Friday night or a Thursday night, but you have practice and we have a big game on Saturday that you need to prepare for. Or maybe Sunday, people trying to go out and brunch, but you need to finish your homework so that you can be prepared for the week. It takes what it takes. You need to get in the gym, maybe make 200 shots today because, you know, your percentage hasn't been as good as it should. It takes what it takes. I know there was a player that I absolutely enjoyed coaching, and, you know, maybe didn't get as many reps as she wanted to in games, but guess what? She stayed after every single game, did the extra on a treadmill, 15 minutes, to make sure she stayed in game shape. It takes what it takes. So I think that's just kind of the standard that, you know, it has been built, like you said, and it's just exciting to be on this side of it because it's just like to see the joy and the happiness of everything unfolding and then the wins. And, you know, you learn from the wins and the losses. So, yeah.
No, that's facts. It's crazy because I was just telling some of my players about that yesterday. I was actually getting on to them because, you know, as high school athletes, you know, they only thing they see is what it takes to be in high school, you know, an athlete and be successful in that. And my goal as a coach is always to be not to prep them for high school, but I prep them for when they walk onto the college campus. Like I want them to walk. I want them to walk into you guys' building and say, "Oh, coach already taught us that." So they're already
prepared. Yeah.
Right. So it's like, you know, sometimes they don't really understand that part of it because we're being strategic, you know, on running and creating a system in their mind already so that they are ready for that, you know, and it's kind of like, you know, like you said, you know, it takes what it takes. I love that saying, you know, because it does. Whatever it takes for you to get there, you know, and a lot of times it gives me joy because, like, before we got on, one of my kids texted me, she said, "Coach, what does a coach mean when they say pack line defense? What does a coach mean?"
Let's go.
And I was like, hold on, man, hold on. So I'm like, you know,
that works your heart, doesn't it? You want to learn.
Yeah, I'm like, man, it's 7 o'clock at night. She texted me this. Like, I was excited, you know, to be able to explain that to her, to be able to sit down and have that talk because I'm like, man, I'm not missing this opportunity to talk to her about what it means to pack the paint to be able to push them out, like, because she wants to learn. You know, and this is a kid that we're talking about 9th grade year could care less about basketball. We're talking about a kid that, you know, I had to drag into the gym and now she's texting me, asking me questions about vocab, you know, for basketball. So
terminology. I love that. You must be doing something right, Coach of the Year.
Sometimes, listen, sometimes I get in here, I'll be like, man, I don't know if I touched this kid today. I was stressed. The practice was horrible. And then they do stuff like that. It was just like, it's not that practice was bad. It's that mentally they were processing, you know? So, you know, that's big, Coach. Like setting the standard is super big. Now, when we talk about just, you know, athletes, and we're going to get to our questions a little bit, what's something that athletes overlook that immediately stands out to you during your recruiting process?
Okay, so this is, I think, how hard somebody, like this is just off the top of the brain, sprints the court every single time. I remember I was out recruiting. I think I was in Kentucky or maybe I was in Chicago somewhere. I don't know. But I remember I was going to like look at a player and whatever. The first thing that stood out for me is she sprinted the court as hard as she could every single time. And when I tell you from baseline to baseline, wing to wing, maybe she's taking the ball out, I don't know, she sprinted. I remember immediately getting on my phone and being like, this girl doesn't stop running. And like, if you can teach somebody, like it's hard to teach people to go 100% all the time. You know that as a coach. So like, I can do everything else that I need to if you just sprint and work hard every single time. I also think something that kind of gets over there.
Oh, there you go.
I think something else that often gets overlooked is like talking, consistent talking. If somebody is out there and they sprint as hard as they can and they're talking consistently, obviously they need the talent piece and all the other things. But if I see somebody's talking consistently, defensively, offensively, they're being a good teammate, all those things, that is something that I think gets overlooked, because when you see somebody that's jogging or taking a play off, sometimes, you know, if it's between two people on a recruiting sheet, that might mark you a little bit down. further down on mine.
No, okay, and that's big, coach, because a lot of
Hmm.
times, like we don't think about that, like sprinting the floor. Like I was talking to one of my assistant coaches a couple weeks ago, and I was telling her, I'm like, man, like this guard that plays for our AU team, like she goes 100%
Hmm.
every time, and I'm like, girl, slow down, like give it a second,
Yeah.
But the thing is, she was like, coach, I don't know how to, I don't know. So it's
Yeah.
like for me, I'm like, okay, well, I can work with it, but I just need you now to read the game a little bit. Like,
Yes.
understand when you need to go, and like somebody just said, a motor, like having a motor is so super hard to find. Like it
Yeah.
takes a long time for, to build that in a kid.
Yeah.
If you find a freshman that's, or, that's in high school or seniors in high
Listen.
school that has a motor, oh, you take that
Listen,
immediately.
I can put some brains on somebody, but it's hard for me to be like, sprint harder, get in shape. Like, come on, we got nah. So that's something I think that like being in shape, like being able to consistently run the floor hard every single time.
Yeah, that's big, and it's kind of like hard because when you talk about kids doing the extra mile, right?
Hmm.
You want them to sprint, but I don't think they understand how exhausting it can be for a coach to keep saying, "Hey, sprint harder. Hey, do
Yeah.
one more rep." You want the kids that you don't have to tell to do another rep. You want the
Yeah.
kids you don't have to tell to sprint down the floor, so it's easier for you to teach more,
Yeah.
basketball IQ or more reads when
Hmm.
you're sprinting hard and when you're going, 100%. So, coach,
Absolutely.
that's super big, when you're talking
Hmm.
about that. Like, that's something that I didn't even think about on the recruiting process. Who's sprinting the floor, you
Yeah,
know?
and I think that, at the end of the day, if, you can tell the people that are going to take plays off, sometimes you might not sprint if you just had a turnover or if you just missed out a crucial box out and they got an offensive rebound putback. Now, like if you're
Right.
consistent with that, we can teach you those reads that you're saying. Like if I'm sending a down screen, am I gonna, should I slip? Should I pop? Ball screen reads, help side, decision making and all those things. But to play fast and do all those things, I think it's important. Yeah.
Now, when you're talking about like, just sitting and evaluating. Now, let's look at this. First 5 minutes of the game, what do you
Mhm.
see in an athlete? What is the first thing you notice besides, the sprinting? What is the first thing that you're looking for in those first 5 minutes?
Obviously, talent, that talent piece, right? Can they dribble, catch, shoot? Are they consistent, like shooter? Are they coachable? Are they a good teammate? Those are some of the intangibles. But on my team, like I'm kind of like our defensive coordinator, I guess you can say. So when you said pack line defense, my eyes perked up. I'm like, somebody wants to learn about pack line. There's so but like that defensive ability, right? Like is somebody able to actually guard the ball and not get beat consistently? Are they
Mhm.
able to be a good teammate and be on help? Do they know what help side is, right? Like is that something that, depending on their talent, is that something that I'm going to have to teach them, or do they already kind of know what that is? I think how they react to getting coached up, that's something that I kind of notice, and their mistake response. So like, let's say they have that turnover that we're talking about. Are they sulking? Are they staying in that, or are they moving on to the next play? Because obviously the game of basketball is not perfect, right? We know that. But like, how quickly are you going to move on from your mistake to make up for it in some capacity? Because you're being a bad teammate by dwelling in it. So I would
Right.
say, I don't know if that happens in the first 5 minutes, but there's some things that can happen in the first 5 minutes that definitely like either
Mhm.
stand out or like, ooh, I don't know if I'm gonna, that's somebody that I want to keep on my list.
No, no, but absolutely. I mean, I've watched a couple high school games where I've seen kids, in those first couple of minutes, a teammate makes a bad pass or and makes a turnover, and instead of them going over and saying, "Hey, man, like it's just the beginning. Let's get it."
Yeah.
They'll start pointing out what they're doing wrong, and then that teammate now go makes a mistake,
Yeah.
because and all the energy trickles down, and
Absolutely.
and I don't think a lot of kids understand the importance of being an encouraging teammate,
Yeah.
because that could change the dynamic. And let's talk about you talked about a little piece of you guys winning the championship. Let's talk
Hmm.
about the attributes of being a championship team.
Yeah.
And one of those is just being positive, being
Yes.
encouraging,
Hmm.
uplifting your teammate, picking them up off the floor.
Yeah,
you
and if
know
you're
the
talking first 5 minutes and about like I can remember I was on, I don't know, have you ever been to like the Kentucky Expo Center where they have like 150 courts and there's all these people and you're
I've
like,
heard
what?
about it.
Oh my goodness, girl, you going from court 2 to court 100 and you got like 4 games in between that to watch. It's crazy. But I remember going to a court, somebody, the power of email, somebody emailed us and I was like, you know what, let me check out this girl. I remember going to this back court, sitting down, and within the first 2 minutes, I was sold on her work ethic, her coachability, her team ability, right? That aspect of what you're talking about and being positive and all of those things. And I don't know if she scored, maybe she shot and made 1 3, but she was working hard on defense. She was, moving well without the ball. She was sprinting. She was helping her teammates up. She was in the right spot at the right time. She wasn't sulking in, her teammates' mistake, right? Like you're talking about how somebody's calling out their teammates. Like, no, she was being an impactful person. And she ended up being a crucial component to us, winning that championship. So within the first 2 minutes, you can actually sell somebody on like, if they're not really on your list, but you're doing some of these things, you can actually like go up on their list because of that.
Right. And another thing that we don't think of, we don't talk about is how they warm up. How somebody warms up. I
Yeah.
tell my kids like that, all the time, like, hey, like, I don't want to have to give you energy. I'm gonna come in with energy, but I
Yeah.
want you to match or meet me halfway. The
Yeah.
one thing that I used to love about like, coaching the overseas girls is when I
Yeah.
walked into the gym, like it was like they were already on it. Hey coach, we already stretched, we already did this, like, because they already had that
Yeah.
mindset. So
Yes.
now in high school, we're teaching that mindset. Hey, let's
Mm-hmm.
get loud. Hey, let's do this. And you were talking about kids that probably never got, spoken into as an encouraging person or never
Yeah.
believed in themselves or don't have the confidence. So, sometimes it's a little push, but to me, it's more exciting to be able to pour that into them.
Yeah.
So they now carry that to the next, to the next person. And then it comes to you guys and you're like,
Yeah.
dang, like those coaches taught them this,
Yes.
like when
Yeah.
I went to college, I know like my coaches he's always praised the coaches that really taught the kids that's coming to him the things that he want them to already know.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I know a big thing in our program is be where your feet are, right? So like, let's say in college, you're going to have time management. That's the biggest thing you're going to have to learn when you're a freshman in college, because you're not going to have mommy and daddy or whoever your guardian is over your shoulder to make sure you're doing your homework, to make sure you're eating, to make sure you're doing all the things that you need to do, right? But be where your feet are. So let's say you just had a test prior to practice and then you have class right after practice. So sometimes you can get caught in like, what time is it? I need to go. No, you need to be where your feet are, be a good teammate. And when you're being where your feet are, you're mentally doing all those things that you're talking about, right? You're mentally already like, all right, I'm going to be there, like clap up my teammate. Like basketball is so much more fun when you invest your whole self into it. And going back to the warm-up thing, and whether it's high school or the summer recruiting eval periods, sometimes I will get to a court early because I know that I have to, watch maybe 3 or 4 other girls, and I'm watching how a person is warming up because I want to see their shooting mechanics. I want to see if they're taking it seriously. I want to see if they have like an attitude with their teammates or whatever those things might be. So like if I, during sometimes you might not get the ball enough to be able to shoot, but if in warmups I can see your shooting mechanics and your flow and how well you can shoot the 3 or layup, whatever it might be, you're at an advantage. But if you're not taking that seriously, now I don't know if you can, and you only got the ball maybe 3 or 4 times with the time that I sat down. Now you're at a little bit of a disadvantage because you didn't take that warm up seriously.
Right. No, that's facts. Now, let's like I know you kind of touched on this before, but have you ever stopped recruiting an athlete because of something that has nothing to do with basketball?
Yeah, so I think that there's a lot of different variables that go into that, right? So I remember I was at a basketball game and I saw this really talented player. Like when I tell you she was doing the Euro 2-step finish through, like she was hitting the three, she was a three, I call it a 3-level player. She could catch and shoot three, she was consistent from her jumper, and she could finish in the paint, right? But
Mm-hmm.
then I heard or saw her parent in the crowd, or I assumed it was a parent, and they were just kind of doing a lot, right? And obviously in high school, you probably have to deal with the parent a little bit more than we do at the college level. But, your parents being involved in your life as an athlete continues into college. and we're recruiting the parents too, to a degree, you know. So if your parent is over there, you know, doing a lot, or you're constantly looking into the crowd at your parent, you know, to get advice, no, trust your coach. That's what your coach is there for. So I think parent, I know social media, that's something that we'll try to check, but these kids these days, these kids are good. They have their little recruiting social media, so they don't even put anything out there but like their offers or anything like that. So they might have, what do they call it? Sadie's, you might know, they call it Finstas. They probably got little fake Instagrams now. So
Oh,
like they got this one. So
spam
obviously,
pages.
yeah. So
Uh,
they're so for most part, they know not to put anything crazy out there because you're a reflection of our program. So if you're coming here and you're putting and posting and pushing out things that aren't representative of Embry-Riddle or our women's basketball program, that is an issue. So those are just a few things that I would say. I would say coachability. You know, if you're arguing with your coach or you're kind of just pushing your coach off to the side, that's something like at this level, we only have a few moments to make in-game adjustments. And if
mhm.
you're not going to listen to your coach in high school or on the AAU trail circuit, whatever, you know, how are you going to, why would you listen to us in college when you think you've already quote unquote made it because you have the college scholarship?
Right. No, absolutely. You said something big, coach. Parents. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like a lot of times, the parents don't understand, to they have to release, their
Yeah.
kid to, those coaches and let them be coached.
Yep.
Like they want to chastise them. If they're not listening to the coach, they want to, tell the coach what they should what they think that they should
Yeah.
do. And it's like one of the biggest things is like, as coaches, we see a different side of those athletes.
Mm-hmm.
Like we get eight
Yeah.
hours or 12 hours of this kid that's outspoken, that's,
Yeah.
that wants to like be social. And then you see the parent come in and they become a whole different person. And you're like, wait, that's not the kid,
Yep.
that I just saw like, 15 minutes ago. So like sometimes having those hard conversations with parents, can
Yeah.
become tricky because now, the parent is mentally like, oh, well, she doesn't know what the best interest for my kid is, or they
Yeah.
don't understand. But it's like even in the crowd, you're like, hey, like focus on me. Those are a
Yeah.
lot of things that a lot of times when you're talking about coaching elite players, you don't have to tell that kid that.
Yeah.
When that, and that's one of the things that I talk to my kids about, like because they sometimes get easily distracted,
Yeah.
right? And don't get me wrong, like my team is very, put together. They're very like, respectful. But sometimes kids, their
They're
attention
netball.
span,
Yeah.
yeah, their attention is like this.
Yeah.
So when we get in like situationals where we're like down two, or we made so many mistakes, and now we're allowed a team that we're supposed to be beating by 10 catch up.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I do in my timeouts is I sometimes I don't even use a clipboard. Hey,
Mm-hmm.
what is our focus? What is our goal? What are we here
Yeah.
for?
Yeah.
Whose voice is important right now? That's one of the questions I
Yeah.
ask them in the huddle. Like, who's most important? I'm like, you, coach. Okay, so when we are coaching or you're in the
Yeah.
game, I need you to be able to hear me and block everything else.
Yeah. We call
You
that
know,
outside noise, right? Like their parents can't, like for the most part, unless you have a very great parent or maybe your parent was a coach at some point or whatever, they're going to be unbiased, right? Who is in your ear? Your parents are going to be unbiased. Most of the times your friends are going to be unbiased. Your teammates, you know, unless you have a really great team that they hold each other accountable, they're going to be a little bit unbiased. So at the end of the day, you got to trust what your coach is saying and do all that they're doing, all that they're telling you to do, because you're in your parents' eyes, you probably can do no wrong.
right. Right. No, that's 100%. And you have some parents that really understand what it means to be on a college athlete, or a college
Yeah,
level. So they allow that, that kid to just release,
yeah,
and I'll use myself because, I don't want, anybody to feel targeted. So I'm gonna use myself as a thing. My mom played basketball, and
hmm,
she had offers, and, of course she got pregnant with me, and
yeah,
then, well, when I got of age and I wanted to be interested in basketball, she trained me until a certain time where
yeah,
she started seeing the conflict of, our attitudes, our emotion, and she was just like,
hmm,
I can't take you farther than this.
yeah,
So she was like, I gotta now release you to somebody else.
yeah,
And that was one of the best things I feel like she did as my mom, is allowing somebody else to pour into me where she
yep,
couldn't. And I think a
yeah,
lot of times as parents, like, when we figure that out, when you figure that out as a parent, like you got to give yourself a round of applause, because a lot
Yeah.
of people don't understand that sometimes it's not about, you as a parent, and they're not listening to you. It's just that
Hmm.
they're like, in their head, they're trying to get somewhere, and they're like, well, you've never been there. So
Yeah.
how can so these kids nowadays are big, like, and they're very analytic, I would say.
Hmm.
And we don't, and we have to move with the generation of saying, okay, well, what is this kid really saying? And and
Yeah.
having conversation with different kids, they'll say that, they'll like, coach, like, it's stressful. She has this pressure. You want this? What am I doing?
Yeah.
But what I tell them is, well, when you get to college, who are you supposed to listen to? And I'm like, because if your parent walks into a college coach office and say, hey, I want to talk to you about playing time, that
Yeah.
coach might tell you, like, well, if you guys don't like it here, you can you can go.
Yeah, I think
You
we've
know.
been very, very blessed since I've been here to have really good parents for the most part. And I will say, like, at the beginning of the year, their freshman year, we bring, the parents and the player in, and we say, we absolutely want you to call us if there is an issue with your daughter, and maybe her mental, or like she's not doing well emotionally. But something that we won't ever discuss is going to be that playing time, unless, because who's day in and day out at practice, right? Who's watching all of the film? Who's rewatching the practice film to actually break down what this particular player needs to get better at? Who's
Right.
scouting in preparation for the other, so until they're at all of those things, um, but we absolutely do want to know how they're doing mentally or emotionally if we can help in that area. But playing time, that's nothing that a parent can get involved in. And we've been very fortunate that our players and our parents understand that, because playing time and different things are earned. It's just not given to you.
No facts, and I've been blessed with, and I agree with that. Like, I've been blessed with some good parents, that
Mm-hmm.
ask questions, that will come in and say, "Hey, coach, like, this college
Yeah.
coach emailed me, and I don't know what to say to them." Like, I've
Mm-hmm.
been really blessed with parents that are very attentive to their kids. So, and that's kind of also what helped me be a better coach.
Yeah.
Like, I tell my parents, listen, I don't know everything,
Mm-hmm.
but I will tell you that I will go and learn it so that I can now give you more
Yeah.
information. Like, I'm not answering a question that I don't have the answer to,
Yeah.
or that I might give you something, the wrong answer to. So,
Yeah.
that was one of the things. And of course, again, like, this is why I have this, platform,
Mm-hmm.
So my next question is, what is one, skill that every high school player should master before they get into a college campus?
All right, so I'm gonna have like one on court one and one off court one. So
Okay.
for me, the on court one is to be a consistent shooter. I don't remember where I learned this, if it was a clinic or somebody I worked with, but good shooting kills a multitude of sin. If you can put the ball in the basket consistently, you will find yourself on the court. You will. So I think just being a consistent shooter, and then off the court, I would say just that mentality. I think a lot of players right now are dealing with confidence issues, and a
Hmm.
lot of the confidence issues span from, like, maybe they have pressure, but is it really pressure that from the outside, or are they putting that pressure on themselves? Is it, my coach is trying to coach me up, but I'm taking it as criticism when it's really trying to help me build and get better? Or, is it my parents telling me, like, oh my goodness, end all be all, you got to get a college scholarship, whatever it might be? Working on that mentality and that confidence, because nobody can steal your confidence. At the end of the day, you are capable, and to be a confident person or player, you have to work at your craft. So work at the things you need to do in order to be confident. But man, I think I talked about it a little bit earlier, that we call it, I got certified in mental performance. Remember, we talked about that year we weren't able to compete,
Yeah.
2020 to 21. We're not
Uh-huh.
getting better at basketball. So I was like, let's get better at our mentality. Like, let's go. So we had this thing called E plus R equals O. It's event plus response equals outcome, right? And that's for basketball, but life, right? So I can speak on, let's say the event is, we had a player that would sometimes, way back when, would get in a funk when they weren't shooting consistently. So she missed like one or two shots, and I literally sat there and timed it. I think it was in a practice. I timed it, and I said, okay, this is her second shot that she missed. Her response was not sprinting back on defense.
Mm.
Um, and maybe not boxing out with the same effort, being a little bit more lackadaisical, and then being too timid to shoot. And that lasted like a solid like 7-8 minutes. 7 or 8 minutes, you're dwelling on probably the 10 seconds that it took for you to shoot and miss 2 shots. So your outcome is being a bad teammate because now you're not on help side, and somebody got an open layup, or now they got you missed a box out and they got an offensive rebound put back, or you're not in the right lane because you decided not to run as hard as you could because you're dwelling on something that happened 5 minutes ago. So that's, I think, a skill that a lot of players should develop in high school. If they can get better at their mentality and that confidence building, I think that will set them apart, especially their freshman year, because that's what so many freshmen, I think, do struggle with.
No, facts, coach. I think one of the things that me and my coaches came up with, we call it emotional fatigue.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the things that we've seen a lot of our kids, struggle with. Like some of the kids that I even train, it's like I was training this kid the other day, and she was a shooter. So
Mm-hmm.
I was like, okay, you got to knock down out of the entire circle. We're going to
Yep.
slide. I said, you got to knock down three.
Mm-hmm.
So she's like, hitting. She's like, then she started missing, and she missed like four straight. So I was like, okay. And then when she got to the end, she hit two back to back. So we,
Yeah.
she was so focused on that gap
Yeah.
of missing those four shots. So then I said, okay, you had 5 minutes to hit those shots. So I
Mm-hmm.
said, think about how many points is that? That's 9 points. You hit three threes, you
Yeah.
know. And I was like, you need to train your mind. What do
Yeah.
you do when you miss?
Mm-hmm.
So, one of the things that I implemented was if we miss a three, you must make a two in order to get
Mm-hmm.
back to the 3 point line.
Mm-hmm.
To get your confidence and keep your momentum, see the
Yeah.
ball going to the basket.
Yeah.
And
Get
those
to the
are
free
when.
throw line, do something, see the ball go in.
Right. So
Yeah.
I'm like, or set an off ball screen. That like
Mm-hmm.
go open up something for somebody else.
Yeah.
We started talking about like just the causing disruption somewhere else so that success can happen on the other half.
Yeah.
And a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times kids don't think about that stuff. And I'm like, hey, this is a triple effect. If we're
Yeah.
playing in a game and you're playing defense, and you're trying to get a steal every single time, you're being selfish. But
Yeah.
if I, keep this player in front of me, right,
Yeah.
and now it caused her to turn it over because my teammate got a steal, I just made something good happen,
Yeah.
right? So I'm like, I'm telling them like, that's a part of the emotional battles that you have to fight, when you're
Yeah.
in college because the game goes so much more faster.
It
Because
does.
and you have to think so much faster, and if you can't think fast or react, or you can't react and read,
Yeah.
you're on the bench, because.
And you're doing yourself and your teammates and your coach and everybody a disservice by dwelling on the mistake that everybody probably forgot about. Maybe you might get, called out in film, or you might be, coached up on the mistake, but that's to better you for the next game. But at that moment in time, you focusing on that is doing everybody a disservice. So absolutely, next play, we call it a next play mentality. Like, there is no reason that we should be stuck on that one thing. And a lot of times, you missed a shot. We had such good rebounders, Sadie's, that we get an offensive rebound putback. Everybody forgot that you missed the shot. Keep shooting.
Absolutely.
Keep shooting.
Absolutely.
You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Absolutely. I even told my kids like they were like, Coach, you're always yelling at us because I'm always saying commit to the decision. I don't
Mm-hmm.
care.
Mm-hmm.
Commit to the decision. When you
Yep.
hesitate or when you're like, I'll see it in their face and I'm like, oh my God, if you don't shoot that ball,
Just do
eh,
it.
do it. So because then I can correct you. I
Yeah.
can go in and I can now correct that. I can coach that. But
Mm-hmm.
I can't coach the hesitation when you don't shoot. All I'm gonna tell you is just shoot the ball. You
Sadie,
know.
that brings us back to that confidence and that mentality piece. That is something that every high school player, I believe, should work on. And I don't know if it's help with their coach. Maybe there's so many resources out there. There's coaches out there that specifically work with mentality and mental performance. But like, getting better at that confidence and that mental training to be able to make a decision and not let it dwell for 5 minutes. The ability to make a mistake or make the wrong read or whatever it is, because you have to make wrong reads in order to figure out what the right one is. you know?
No,
And
facts.
so just going, it goes back to, I think a lot of high school players should develop that confidence piece, and you know, just taking everything in as a learning opportunity, not the end of the world.
No, facts. Now, listen, it's a lot of people on. I see people jumping in and out. Listen, guys, show Coach some love. Give us some blue hearts in the comments. Give Coach some congrats because she has been doing her thing. I can't tell y'all. She made sure that everything at her tournaments are always, key. She makes everybody feel at home. The the relationship that we have given, or you have been giving us, it has been so great and so tremendous. Well, I see Drea on. What up, Dre?
Andrea!
Thank you guys. Like, listen, drop those blue hearts because Coach deserves it. Give her flowers now because you never understand and the journey it takes to get where you are, Coach. From being an athlete to now being an associate head coach, like that's major. And I want to say congratulations, and I want to say thank you for even taking the time to be a part of this, platform because sometimes people don't understand how important it is just to be able to get some advice from somebody that's already there, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, thank you for even, I know we've been playing a little bit of phone tag, text tag, DM tags, all the little different tags, but we made it happen. We're here. So I appreciate
abs-
you, reaching out, and however I can give back to the game that has given so much to me. I love it. Like, I just, being able to be here is great.
Absolutely, Coach. Now, listen, guys. If you got some Q&A, you can hit my inbox, and I'll send them over to Coach, and she'll send me some answers. We're at our time. I see you guys giving her some love in the comments. Make sure you guys go and follow Coach, and not only Coach. Please go follow Embry Riddle Women's Basketball page and Embry Riddle Athletics. I promise you guys will not be disappointed. The energy that they bring is great and phenomenal. And I promise you guys you will feel love. Thank you guys for locking in, and Coach, thank you for being on my platform.
Absolutely. Thank you. Well, we're going to have to do it again at some point.
Absolutely, we're gonna run it back. And when we run it back, I'm gonna be on the campus. We're gonna be live.
Oh, let's go.
But I'm definitely gonna pop into a game,
Yes.
and make sure that we come support. But again, thank you, Coach, and you have a great day.
You as well. Thank you. Have
All
a good
right, thank you. Have a good one.
Bye.